Thinking about buying on the bay here in Ocean City, New Jersey, I want to talk through the 3 most important factors for you to consider before you make your purchase. Hey there, Nick Deckard here with our first video focused specifically on the bayfront here in Ocean City, New Jersey. Now, when I've helped people in the past, we focus most on the third one that I'm going to get into. We're going to save the best for last, so make sure you stick around for that. Let's get right into it. When buying on the bay, there are a handful of reasons why anybody might want to be there, but one of the primary ones is access to the water. Now, that could be for boating, for fishing, for any number of different uses. So the first thing you want to be very, very certain of is the access. And what I mean by access not only applies to getting in and out of the water, right? Some have floating docks, floating ramps, so that the tide doesn't affect your ability to have fun. Now, the other component of that are your boat slip sizes and, more importantly, the depth. Obviously, if you already have a boat, you know how long it is. You are already kind of going to be limited to where your boat is going to fit, and that will narrow your options down. But the piece that most people don't think about is the depth. Depending on where you are on the bayfront here in Ocean City, whether you're on the open bay or the lagoon, are 2 very, very different places to be. I highly recommend not only taking a good old tape measure with have your agent, who should have one with them in their car usually anyway, to measure the depth of the water. And that really means sticking something down in the water more often than not and measuring the water mark. I use a little mushroom anchor on a rope, and then we can mark off on the rope at different tides, right? At high and low tide, exactly how much water is going to be there. The last thing you want to do is be all excited to be on the bay and have your boat stuck in the mud on low tide and be completely unusable. The only way that you're going to be able to rectify that is either moving again or getting a boat lift installed if you can and if you have everything in place to do so. And that is tens of thousands of dollars that you might not have expected to spend. Now, the second factor you want to consider is the age of the bulkhead. Now, that's fairly easy to find out, but you don't want to get into a home expecting to not have any major expenses for a while. And here's a little secret that a lot of people don't know until they've already bought on the bay. Maintenance on the bay is very expensive. That comes down to bulkhead, that is dock maintenance, that comes with a lot of different things that you won't have if you buy on the interior of the island or even on the beachfront. So you want to be extra certain that you understand exactly how old that bulkhead is so that you can budget for that, right? If it's a 50-year-old bulkhead, if it's a 75-year bulkhead, if it's a 30-year bulkhead, there are many different materials that can be used. So you want to have that discussion with your agent so that you really can plan for the future. Now, the most important thing that you want to think about is what we call waterfront compliance. Now, a lot of people don't know about this, and they go in, buy a home, and they don't know that they're putting themselves at substantial financial risk. There are laws here in New Jersey that govern just about everything, especially when it comes to water usage. Now, a lot of homes are in violation. They are not up to code. They are not up with the standard DEP regulations, and that can end up getting you fined. But let me give you an example here. Over the last 50 years or so, when bulkheads are being replaced, instead of actually taking the original bulkhead out and inserting the new bulkhead in its place, a lot of companies were simply dropping the new bulkhead in front of the original bulkhead. And unfortunately, that is a violation. There are riparian rights at stake here that govern exactly how far you can have certain structures in the water and how much water you are allowed to use based on your agreement, a grant or a lease, with the state. So if you're dropping that bulkhead where it's not supposed to be, technically you're encroaching on state land. You're using that without paying for it. So the state is not going to let that go. So in the past 5 to 10 years, they've taken to satellite surveillance, they've taken to drive-by on boat surveillance and taking measurements to see who is in compliance and who is not. So while you may get off scot-free in the time that you own your bayfront home, there's always a chance that the hammer comes down on you, even if you weren't the one who was at fault, who made those improvements or upgrades that go against code. So you want to make sure in your contract you have a addendum or a contingency specifically stating that the entire property has to go through the waterfront compliance process. That can end up saving you, or rather costing the seller, tens of thousands of dollars to bring the property up to snuff in order for you to close with peace of mind. So those are the big 3 things you need to be top of mind and aware of when buying here on the bay in Ocean City. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them down in the comments below or reach out directly. I appreciate you spending some time here with me, and I will see you on the next video.